what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us. I am Scott Rutter. I am the president and founder of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. We are having one of our another lunch and learns. We're really excited. We're going to have Joe. We got Joe Artem. I was going to say Artemidius because that was a word I was just about to say, but we have Joe Artem. He's a technical crop advisor from Cannacribs Consulting. We're going to learn about all kinds of growing weed, from how he started, where he is today, where he thinks that the world is going. So there's a lot of great conversation about to happen. But before we get into that conversation, I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Sprague Energy. Sprague Energy is our preferred energy provider. Financial Resources, Federal Credit Union, Curaleaf, Burton Trent Public Affairs, HBK CPAs, Township Green, Proteus 420, Saks LLP, Dutchie, Puffin, Canna Remedies, DN Labs LLC. So I want to thank our sponsors. We really couldn't be doing any of this without our sponsors. And we really want to thank Joe for joining us today. We have a lot of great content, at our Lunch and Learns. We learn a lot about the industry, what's going on in financing, what's going on nationally. And for the first time in a long time, we're going to have a great conversation about growing weed. I mean, this is the cannabis industry, and it's really a complex industry, and there's different types of techniques that are out there. And we have a lot of legacy folks who are entering the legal market. So it's going to be really exciting to hear from Joe and his team. So Joe, tossing it over to you.
Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today on the webinar. Thanks, Jenna, and thanks to the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. Stoked to be a part of you guys and contribute to the New Jersey cannabis industry. So during today's discussion, I'd like to introduce myself and the Cannacribs Consulting team. I'll be sharing who we are, what we do, and how we can help you and your business. Before we get started, I posted some links in the chat, my email address and our websites. Feel free to check those out. And I know many of you may have some questions at the end of this, so we will hope to have a Q&A session towards the end of this.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Joe. Actually, for the questions, please feel free to add in the Q&A button your questions. We're going to take them and we'll pose them to Joe towards the end.
Thanks, Scott. So who am I and how did I get here? As Scott mentioned, my name is Joe Artem. I'm a technical crop advisor with Cannacribs and Growers House. My background streams about 14 years in the industry, coming up on 14 years. But before I got in the industry, way back in 2005, I was a student at Westchester University of Pennsylvania, studying psychology. In my studies, I learned about evolutionary psychology and other theories pertaining to the development of the human brain and brain chemistry, but very little was mentioned about the endocannabinoid system. My, how far we've come, right?
Right on.
I was always intrigued by the cannabis plant and its effects on humans. After I finished grad school in 2010, I decided to pursue my interest in cannabis and learn as much as I could about production, cultivation, and the industry itself. I was fortunate enough to have some folks in the industry already in Colorado. They helped me to obtain a position at a small medical license facility. There, I learned everything I could and really just immersed myself in the industry and the culture. This warehouse wasn't too large. 30, 40 lights back then was pretty big. This was in 2010. Everyone kind of did everything. So we all participated in cloning, mother care, vegetation, flowering cycle, harvest, trimming, packaging, all the way through. There was no SOPs. And thankfully we were close knit team because without the group effort, it could have been a failure. From that experience, I learned how important it is to kind of have some leadership involved, some SOPs, and process efficiency. In 2012, I witnessed the rollout of recreational sales in Colorado. This really kind of springboarded me forward to have the background that I was able to gain in Colorado, in how the market became more regulated with regards to compliance and testing, and a lot of businesses that were currently operational really need to like tighten up. In 2016, I moved to Ashland, Oregon, and participated in the Oregon market from 2016 to 2019. Oregon was a little bit different than Colorado, kind of a little bit more legacy growers, a lot of outdoor, a lot of greenhouses. So I partnered up with some legacy growers and really like learned the ropes of outdoor full-term cultivation, irrigation design, light deprivation, hoop houses, and that really helped me to kind of like move forward in the consultant and professional cannabis, commercial cannabis industry. In 2019, seeing how the laws out here were changing, I moved back east and got my foot in the door at Agrikind in Chester, Pennsylvania. Was one of the first cultivation employees at that site, helped to make that site operational and get off the ground. In 2020, that site was acquired by Verano. Soon after that, I was offered a position at Curaleaf as the cultivation manager in the King of Prussia site, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I helped that site to become fully operational and compliant within the state of Pennsylvania. I trained the team of 25 cultivators, helped develop their SOPs, and a year later, we were in the top 3 Curaleaf sites in the country with regards to yield, grams per square foot, bud to germ ratio, and failure rate. For those of you who aren't familiar, Pennsylvania has pretty high, pretty stringent testing, no higher than 10,000 CFUs for yeast and mold, heavy metals, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, etc. So pretty strict testing guidelines. From there, in 2022, March, one of my associates kind of reached out to me. He was working at the Air Wellness site in Lakewood, New Jersey, and he needed some help with the processing, post-harvest, and operations in that site. So I took a job there, worked there for about a year and helped to dial in their SOPs and their process efficiencies. And then after that, most recently in April of this year, I interviewed at Cannacribs and was offered the technical crop advisor position.
Awesome.
So all in all, about 14 years experience, coming up on 14 years, seeing the industry kind of blossom from, small scale medical, kind of underground gray market to full scale commercial operations, everywhere from closet grows to 100,000 square foot facilities. So seeing it all. It's been a long road, but I'm super proud of everyone who participated in the industry and to get to the point we are today, where I think it's 23 states, medical or adult use, and we've come a long way. So if any of you out there were involved in that, give yourselves a pat on the back, and I commend you for sticking with it.
Yeah, man.
All right, so what do I do as a technical crop advisor? In my role as technical crop advisor, I work closely with teams to gather necessary information to help overcome any issues they may be experiencing at their current site operations, or help for sites that are currently looking to build out or design a facility. This could be anything regarding cost savings, equipment selection, SOPs, cultivation operation SOPs, best practices, process improvement, IPM BCA strategies, diagnosing plant health, irrigation design and fertigation strategies, tissue media leachate pathogen testing, which we offer through Cannacribs and Growers House, and everything you could think of in between, helping to build your teams, helping to train your teams, offering support in any areas that you're struggling, any questions you may have, any ideas that you are considering that you want to pass through a second set of eyes or some more ears to kind of be a sounding board for you. If a business requests support in anything beyond my scope, we have a team of horticultural consultants that are some of the most talented minds in the cannabis industry today. So who we are, who is Cannacrib's horticultural consulting team? This is where I'm going to share kind of a slideshow presentation with y'all, and we'll go through some of these things and how we can help you too. 1 second while I get this up.
This is great, man. This is great. Great content, great conversation. Love your background.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions thus far?
We'll save them towards the end. But I really like, the closet to a full scale cultivation, commercial cultivation facility.
Cool.
Because I think that's where a lot of our folks are. They're in the legacy market. They want to transition into the legal market. A lot of people have experience, and they think they can go and they can grow and they can scale, but it's a real big challenge. And I think, having your type of experience as part of any team would be valuable.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, Scott. A lot of folks underestimate how many industries are involved in the cannabis industry. We have manufacturing, it's big ag, commercial ag, good manufacturing processes. I see the industry heading that direction for being certified, clean facilities, basically pharmaceutical production facilities, and the teams that go along with it, training, HR, everything that's involved. It's a big beast. So definitely couldn't recommend an extra set of eyes or ears to kind of help you out with planning out your production or planning out your facility. All right, so Cannacrib's Horticultural Consulting, who we are. Here's most of our team. There's a couple folks that I will talk about that are missing from this slide, but right off the bat, we have Philip Matsniller, Juan Gutierrez, and Darren Kaplan. They're kind of our high-end, upper-end engineering team. They assist with facility design, irrigation design, anything to get your business up and running. They'll be the kind of the upper level consultant team to help us out with that. Next, we have Nate Lipton. He's the co-founder of Growers House and Cannacrib's. Nate's the real deal, man. I can't speak more highly about Nate. He kind of welcomed me with open arms. He went to University of Oregon, so he kind of saw the industry out there and noticed there was a need for supplies and consulting, and he started Growers House. He's also, for those of you familiar with Cannacrib's episodes, he's our famous host. I've gone to some site visits with Nate, and a lot of folks who are familiar with Cannacrib's are like, "Oh my God, is that the guy?" So he deals with the infamy pretty well, and he's a very humble guy and a great person to work with. Next is our technical crop associates advisors, and we're a small but mighty team. That includes myself, Mike Chang, and Will Batt. Right now it's 3 of us, and we just had a new individual, Brian, join the team. He has a background most recently with Athena, which is a large nutrient company nationwide, and he's kind of been taking the lead on the technical crop advisor team, and we're super stoked to have him on the team as well. Not pictured in this slide is our chief formulation chemist at Ventana Plant Science, George Murray, and I'll post a link to Ventana Plant Science in the chat as well. Ventana Plant Science is kind of our house nutrient brand at Cannacrib's, and George is our formulation chemist. He has an extensive background in ag and developing nutrients for ag. All right, so that's basically our team. We have many other commercial account executives and managers. You may or may not be able to see Sarah. She's my counterpart with Cannacrib's, and she helps me to ensure that any of our clients are receiving the best service and the best pricing on any equipment or products that they're interested in. And can't speak more highly about Sarah. She's been a great help and kind of been showing me the ropes on the ins and outs of commercial accounts and kind of how to manage and help folks out. So thank you, Sarah. So how can we help you, and what have we done? Cannacrib's brings you the best practices of the most renowned farms. modern horticultural and legacy knowledge to create and support scalable, high yielding, and profitable facilities. So this can be anything from design and operations, covering our design services. We can do cultivation system design, cultivation facility layout, and workflow optimization. We can calculate HVAC loads and dehumidification needs for cultivation and post-harvest environment. We're actually doing our own webinar series coming up soon. We had the first one this week, and we'll be highlighting folks on our team and guest panelists to kind of discuss specific areas of cultivation and operations. Most recently, we did IPM and BCA strategies this past week. Our next one in September, we'll be discussing harvest and post-harvest operations and best practices. I will probably be the host of that one, and I'll post a link to that in the chat as well. We can also assist you with staffing requirements and roles, help to train your team and make sure the team is set up to be successful. We can help to crunch numbers on yield estimates and your DLI, which is your lighting needs for your facility square footage and how many plants you are projected to grow. We can help you with grow table selection and benching layout and lighting layout, environmental set point review and guidance. So a lot of people may not be aware, but the better you can control your growing environment within your facility, the better off your plants are going to be health-wise, yield-wise, quality-wise, and your team is going to be stoked to participate and work with that plant. If your environment set points are all over the place and you have little control over that, it really becomes a struggle to grow quality cannabis indoors. So we can definitely help dial in your environmental set points and get you set up with the proper equipment and wherewithal to know and control your environment for quality cannabis production at a commercial scale. We can do climate analysis for outdoor and greenhouse cultivation. Most recently, this past week, I was in upstate New York visiting some sites who had some greenhouses, and they needed some assistance with taking some environmental parameters and see where they had hot spots in the room, and how we can get a little bit more better airflow in their greenhouse, how we can kind of dial in their irrigation, drybacks, and kind of some strategy regarding irrigation and nutrient through the flower cycle and the veg cycle. That was, if anyone is tuning in from any of the sites I visited, thank you all. I really appreciated it, and looking forward to working with you all. That being said, we do work. I'm the only person in Canna Cribs on the East Coast, but I do cover a large range, anywhere from Maine to Florida on the East Coast and all the way west to the Mississippi. So I know we're Jersey and we're talking Jersey, and I've had a lot of folks in the Jersey market reach out. Most recently, I did work at Air Wellness in Lakewood, so I am really familiar with the Jersey cannabis industry, compliance, CRC representatives, and anyone needing any assistance with that, feel free to reach out with any questions, email me, give me a shout, call me out anytime. Continuing with how we can help you with your business. A couple more regarding design. Cultivation SOPs. This one, a lot of folks really underestimate. And this goes back to kind of what I was discussing during my introduction. In Colorado, the site that I worked at when I first started in the industry, we had no SOPs. This made it extremely difficult to get a consistent crop every round. So everyone kind of had their own methodologies, and until your team is aligned on your SOPs, it makes it really difficult to produce a quality crop at scale every round. You may hit a couple home runs here and there, but SOPs, I cannot speak more highly about having them in place, and it kind of helps for your management team to be able to train your team as well. And then that leaves all the questioning out, because you have your SOP to reference. and we kind of assist you with building your SOPs for your facility. And we can also help to amend your SOPs if you decide to change anything up regarding your environment, how many plants per square feet, your fertigation strategies, your lighting, anything like that will help assist to amend your SOPs. Last but not least, your process flow and diagrams to kind of help exemplify to your team how things should work. So we can provide you kind of with like a playbook is what I call it. And it's like a picture or a video to help assist training with the team. On to operations, cultivation best practices, including fertigation, propagation, and canopy management. Very important aspects of the industry. This one I cannot speak highly about enough. Production planning and scheduling. This is really where I see the industry headed. If you have a solid production plan and your team is aware of your production plan for the year, and even if you can't get to the year, quarterly, very important, week by week, having a schedule for your team to see and be able to kind of work together on, not only keeps the team kind of on track, but leaves any questions out and keeps kind of the morale high because they see the end result. Integrated pest management strategies. This often goes underlooked because cannabis is an agricultural product. There's going to be pests, whether that be insect or fungal. New Jersey is not the optimal environment to grow cannabis, to say the least. Summers are hot and humid, winters are cold and dry, and then you get slammed with a blizzard, and you got to deal with everything that Mother Nature throws at you. So we can kind of help dial in your IPM. Springtime, I know a lot of folks see aphids, root aphids, mites, all the insects are kind of coming to life after the winter and they're looking for food. So if your facility isn't dialed in with regards to biosecurity, you may or may not experience some difficulty with pests. We have some solid individuals on our team that can help you out with that. Like I said, this past week's webinar was dedicated to IPM strategies and BCAs. BCAs are biological control agents. So these are beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, and beneficial insects that can be predatory mites or predatory wasps, nematodes, things like that, that can help to eliminate pests that are eating or damaging your crop. Thrips, spider mites, aphids. Hopefully no one out there gets russet mites, but if you do, reach out and we got you. Post-harvest process, such as trimming, drying, and curing. This is a big one that goes underestimated as well. You can grow the best cannabis in the world, but if you are not drying, curing, and processing that plant, all that work that went into making that beautiful flower goes out the window. So I cannot stress enough how important your harvesting and post-harvest processing is. We can provide SOPs with that and kind of walk you through every step of the way, how to dry and cure and process the product. So when the customer gets the final product, they're pleased with the product they're receiving, and your team who went through all the labor to produce that product is stoked to have that enter the market. We can assist with labor management, job descriptions.
Hey, Joe, can I interrupt just out of curiosity? Because I know you had a deck of charts.
Oh, yep.
And I haven't seen anything move for a while.
Yep. So I'm almost finished with operations.
Okay.
And we'll go into kind of
right on that. Just
what we do.
Just double checking. All right, sir.
I have like 4 more bullet points. Workflows and environmental control, research and development, trial and design. So I think the title of this webinar is Take the Error Out of Trial and Error. That was kind of a statement that one of our team members made, and we really liked it, so we ran with that. KPIs. This can kind of help you judge whether or not you're wasting labor on a specific area within the process. Operations management and overcoming cultivation challenges. And then last but not least, I see a large trend in the industry for data collection and analysis to enhance your decision making. So we can kind of set you up with spreadsheets to collect the data that is necessary to ensure that you're making the right moves within your business. All right, so our track record. We've worked on facilities as large as 250,000 square feet. Here's kind of some of our partners we'd like to highlight and who we worked with. Thank you to all those folks. We've worked on greenhouses up to 25 acres, field sites up to 160 acres. We've partnered with award-winning production facilities and helped to design those facilities. We've increased yields up to 40% with some of our partners, and we've reduced cost per gram to below $1 per gram for indoor and below 3 cents per gram greenhouse. We also get you set up to become good manufacturing process certified and pharma ready. Here's some examples of some small facility designs. That being said, we work with everyone. We work with hobbyists. We work with micro licenses in New Jersey. I have quite a few micro licenses that I've been helping out with to get the facility up and running, equipment needs, facility design, irrigation needs, irrigation design. And then we also work with large scale design. Currently in New Jersey, we're working with 2 or 3 partners that are going 50 to 70,000 square feet. This is something I mentioned, production planning. This is kind of an example of what it takes to kind of get one round to the finish line and how long it takes. So we can help your team design a full-scale production plan for every room in your building for the year. Like I said, very important, and that kind of gives you an estimate of what your returns would be each month, each quarter, and each year. This is a lot of folks on the finance end and on the marketing and business end, the big time folks who are crunching all the numbers. They mostly focus on this to see what their end result will be and how much product they'll have to sell on the market. Fertigation systems, large and small. Here's kind of a CAD design, example of kind of what we can do for your facility, show you per your square footage of your irrigation room, how we can kind of build it out to be efficient. And we're partnered with GrowLink, Netafim, and some other companies to kind of help you out with different types of design, whether it be a direct inject system or a batch tank system. Whatever you want to do for your facility, we can kind of help design that for you. And also we can look at your facility design or look at what would be most efficient for water consumption, fertilizer strategy, whether you want to use all organic inputs or salt inputs. That's a discussion we'll have before we go into this design. Design rendering. So here's kind of an example of a propagation room. And depending on how many flower rooms you have or what tier license you're approved for square footage wise, we can kind of design this for you. We also are involved with tissue culture and micropropagation. So this is something that's been pretty new recently in the industry. Tissue culture propagation. This is to help ensure that your genetics don't become weak and that you don't need that much space for your mom room to ensure that you have the genetics that you want to produce in your facility. So say you have something really unique that the market really enjoys, like a hot product. We can take a tissue culture of it and keep it in one of these tiny little cubes, and you have that genetic background, that cultivar, for an indefinite amount of time. And this will grow slowly so you can eventually clone off it again and make another mother plant for production, cloning if you want to, or research and development, whatever your uses may be. It kind of helps to ensure that your genetics stay solid as long as possible. This also helps with remediation of any viroids or bacterial fungal infections. You can kind of clone, you can micropropagate and tissue culture those diseases out of your plant. As I mentioned, integrated pest management, very important aspect. Irrigation and crop steering. So this has been a hot topic in the industry as well. Kind of 25% drybacks overnight has been the industry standard, and then slowly micro irrigating your plant up to the water holding capacity of your media, and then each night then having another dryback. This has been shown to increase yields, help out with cannabinoid production and terpene production, and be the best practice for irrigating cannabis. SOPs and visual work aids. So as mentioned, this is kind of like a playbook for cloning. And we can help develop these for your facility and walk your team through it for training. Yield and quality improvement. The couple slides before, we worked with a facility to help them increase their yields by 40%. This is kind of my wheelhouse right here, is kind of assessing your current SOPs or your current production, and then how can we help to increase your yield and quality. If you're experiencing any failures for fungus or pathogens, we can kind of assess what is the root cause analysis of that. All right, I kind of already went through all this stuff. Here's some examples of some facilities we work at. This is a little bit older. As you can see, these are the double-ended 1,000-watt HPS lights. But this is a nice canopy, nice even canopy, and high-yielding 85,000 square foot indoor facility. Here's a smaller scale, 8,000 square foot facility. Got some UV lights back there for when folks aren't in there for sanitation. Here's a 55,000 square foot facility with LEDs. There's a nice large scale outdoor and some greenhouses. And then we have some testimonials of folks we worked with. Last but not least. All right, well, that brings me to the end of this presentation. I really appreciate you having me on this week, Scott. We can open it up to any Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a couple questions there, but before we get into there, you just showed an outdoor picture, right? And it looked like it was maybe Oregon or someplace like that. Outdoor New Jersey has been a recent conversation, right? So people are looking, how can I reduce the cost of cultivation, the energy costs and the facility costs, and indoor growing is very expensive. So people are looking for other options, but New Jersey's climate's different than clearly Oregon or California or Southwest. So the challenge would be, what are your thoughts on growing outdoors in New Jersey?
I think that it can be done. Like you said, the seasons are different. High humidity and heat in the summer, and a shorter growing season typically than California, Oregon, Washington. But people are doing it successfully in Florida. They do have a little bit longer growing season, but the humidity and heat is similar to Jersey. So I think with proper SOPs, proper design, and a team that's been trained to work within the environment, you can be successful. As I mentioned earlier this week, I was in upstate New York, and folks up there are doing outdoor successful. I saw some currently growing product and some finished product, and pretty high quality. They've been able to get some pretty high cannabinoid content as well. So
I was up in the Hudson Valley area recently. Is that where you're talking about?
I was in Endicott and then more in the Adirondacks.
Okay.
But I do know of some sites in the Hudson area that are doing it successfully as well.
It was a great visit. I enjoyed it very much. The outdoor grown weed was fantastic. And I couldn't tell the difference, right? So they did a really great job, to your point.
Yep. And let's not forget, it's the Garden State.
Hey, that's what we're looking for. That's why we want to do that. So it's actually, the pushback has been on municipalities.
Yep.
There's the growing concern. How have you seen that, like, nationally, where towns are starting to get more comfortable with cannabis cultivation, and maybe some outdoor growth? Like, what are you seeing trend wise?
Every state is different. I'll put it that way. I would say Jersey, individual municipalities have been difficult. Most folks that I've been speaking with, they have had challenges overcoming the local governments. I can't push enough how important it is to kind of get out there and make yourself known in politics, kind of partner up with someone who you can educate and help to understand the industry, and how, if you want to talk to us about how we can kind of provide you with some information, educational information to pass along to these folks, to kind of get them to come around to understand that, hey, we're not going to be pouring poison into your water source. Hey, we're gonna make this sustainable. We're gonna be bringing industry to the local areas, and kind of just partner up with those folks.
Yeah,
Most folks that I've seen successful with working with the local municipalities have partnered up with somebody.
No, you're right. The local relationships are really important. Science is very important. The facts are very important. And if you can bring those all together, I will tell you, there was a recent, last year, there was a cultivator looking to get into a township, and a concern from several of the residents, what happens with the water runoff, and
Yep.
kids will get high when they walk in it. Animals will get high when they walk, like, honest to goodness, like, that was a statement of a concerned parent about how the water runoff will get animals high. That's it. So it's just, it's that kind of education. That's just, there's a lot of that sort of ignorance that's still out there. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just people have to educate themselves, and they're not going to do that for themselves. It's your job, right? So you as a cultivator, you as the applicant, working with guys like Joe, could really, really make a difference in a municipality and getting them to turn their thoughts.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, there is a lot of disinformation out there, and it's up to all of us to kind of present the facts, present the data, present the science, and kind of educate everyone out there to kind of bring the industry full force.
How do you, so there's a lot of inconsistencies and strains, right? So that's a big challenge, bringing clones from the West Coast over to the East Coast. The soil is going to be different, temperature is going to be different, the techniques are going to be different. How do you advise groups to try to maintain as much consistency, like once it's here, get that same consistency crop after crop after crop?
I would say first and foremost, definitely selecting a reputable either breeder, seed bank, or clone bank. We do work with a couple, and they're on our website, so check them out. And if you have any additional questions, I can kind of point you in the right direction. So definitely sourcing quality genetics is very important. And if they're the real deal, they'll kind of talk to you about, hey, this does well in this climate. This does well with this feeding strategy. This does well if you cultivate it in this process. And we can kind of help you, guide you through that as well. Unfortunately, with the regulations that currently exist, it's really difficult to kind of guide people with genetic information. So I really feel that there's a need to kind of do a genome per strain. And once we kind of gather that data and gather that information, we'll be able to guide people better. But I think there's more information that's needed on the genetic makeup of specific strains, because right now we're just using a name. And let's face it,
Right.
you, myself, any one of us could say, this is sour diesel, this is headband, this is blue dream. But do we actually know until we actually have the genome of that plant documented and in a database? So we're kind of playing the guessing game. But I will say, with the experience that I've had, I can kind of look at a plant and kind of diagnose it by the way it looks. So for instance, I know I don't really like this grouping strategy, but the classic indica sativa hybrid delineation. Typically, most indica strains evolved away from the equator. So shorter growing season, colder environment, and had to get to the seeding phase of it quicker. So those strains are going to have broader leaves, shorter, stoutier branching, and a shorter flowering time. Anything that's sativa is going to evolve closer to the equator. So that's going to be longer branching, slender leaves, longer flowering time. Some people say there's sativas that flower up to like 140 days. So may not be the best strains to choose for outdoor in New Jersey. But then again, if you have an indoor facility and you control your environment and you have a really rare cultivar and you want to experiment with that, might be something cool. That being said, with testing results, most commercial cannabis cultivation is hybridized strains. Unless you're working with someone who's sourcing landrace, it's going to be somewhere in between.
Right.
And that even within a specific cultivar, there's going to be different phenotypical differences, whether that be potency, the way it grows, susceptibility to pathogens, and the list goes on with variables. But our team can definitely help dial in your SOPs per your cultivars to ensure that you're getting the best yield and the best quality.
So, East Coast, West Coast, again, what type of technology are you seeing? So like, I know like early on in New Jersey, a lot of people were making some errors when they were buying equipment, right? They might have had a relationship with an equipment provider who's based out of Arizona. And then you take it up to the Northeast where the humidity is going to be different. Therefore, the HVAC system is going to be different. Like, how are you seeing technology kind of create a role for consistency moving forward? Any new developments coming up in the near future?
I can't speak more highly enough about one of our partners, GrowLink. They are full system integration within your facility. So environmental controls, communications between your systems. So whether that's HVAC, dehumidification, lighting, fans, irrigation, and they're pretty cutting edge with setting up systems per where the system is. So if your facility is in Alaska, if your facility is in Florida, wherever that is, we can kind of dial it in what you will need where your location is. So the industry is definitely progressing with regards to technology. I'm sure most of you have recently seen scouting technology with using drones and AI and cameras. I think that's going to be on the forefront of the industry coming up in the next couple of years. As camera technology increases, as AI is programmed to understand what a specific symptom of a pathogen looks like on a plant, that can help you to diagnose anything that's going on in your crop. But regards to environment, I have about 5 years in the industry in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, so I'm pretty keyed into what is necessary to dial in your environmental set points.
All right. Well, we're over time, but I want to ask like one key question here, which is, well, there's two questions. There was a question on are you working from one of our folks here in the audience here? Are you working with Rutgers at all? You mentioned pest control early on in your discussion. Are you working with Rutgers University at all? Are you familiar with what they're doing in pest control?
I've read a little bit about it myself. Myself, I have not reached out to anyone in Rutgers, but that is a great point, and I will be sure to do that. I do know that Pennsylvania has the clinical registrant program, and that's for research on cannabinoids. I'm not sure about pest management yet, and I know New Jersey may be heading in that direction with the clinical registrant as well. If you do have the opportunity to gain that license, that enables you to partner up with a medical institution or a university to kind of progress research on cannabinoids and the efficacy when treating specific diagnoses. But I do know there's a university in Pennsylvania. I think it's somewhere out this way. Oh, what's the name of it? I'll get the name and I'll put it in the chat, but they're also doing research regarding pest management as well. And then we do have a couple of contacts down in Florida that are working on remediation and mitigation of HLV. So hop latent viroid, that's been a hot topic recently in the industry. Out west, it's pretty rampant. A couple sites I work with, 10 to 20% of their cultivars they had were infected. So we have the capabilities to test and to help remediate hop latent viroid. If you're experiencing any decrease in your potency, could be a sign that your plant may be infected with the viroid. But thank you for pointing that out. I do have some folks at Rutgers that I know, and I'll reach out to them for maybe some collaboration on
Yeah, there's a lot of activity at Rutgers, Stockton University as well.
Oh, actually, I worked with a professor at Stockton who's doing a horticultural class with regards to cannabis.
Awesome.
Her
Dr.
name,
Maria?
no, her name is, she worked at Air Wellness with me and I can't recall now. But she's a professor. She's doing some classes out there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, we definitely went past our time. One last question.
Yes,
How
sir.
old were you and where were you when you grew your first plant?
How old am I?
How old were you and where did you grow? I mean, how old were you when you grew your first plant?
I could
And
say
where did
this
you grow
now.
them?
I would not have shared this information 10 years ago, but I could say this now. The first time I grew a cannabis plant, I was 19 or 20,
All right.
and it was in my the house that I lived in college in a closet. It
Very
was with a single-ended 1,000-watt bulb with the open reflector, and I had some Betsy Hayes and some Mass Super Skunk.
cool.
I wish I
Hey,
still had that.
are you gonna hide? How are you hiding that in your closet? Cool. Dude,
My landlord was pretty chill. I'll just
that
say
is
that.
a stinky weed there, my friend. All right. Well, look, Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. It has been a lot of great information that you shared. I want to announce that we'll just remind everybody that on October 4th, we're going to have our second annual Cannabis Connections, which is where we are going to marry up cultivators. We're going to marry up dispensary operators with cultivators and manufacturers. And the whole idea is to get applicants and license holders together. It is a rapidly growing industry in New Jersey starting soon. Right now, it's been very slow. People are now starting to get their licenses. The last meeting, a lot of awardees were announced. A lot of annual licenses were announced. So we're going to start to see people putting their operations together and doing their grand openings and all that kind of good stuff. So remember October 4th. And I also want to make sure that I thank our sponsors. We have, again, Sprague Energy, our preferred energy provider, which is a critical component of your cultivation facility as reduce your energy costs. Financial Resources, Federal Credit Union, Curaleaf, Burton Trent Public Affairs, HBK CPAs, Township Green, Proteus 420, Saks LLP, Dutchy, Puffin, Canada Remedies, and DM Labs. So again, Joe, thank you very much for your time. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm sure the folks who are watching this did too.
Thank you, Scott, very much for your time. Thanks to the New Jersey Cannabis Association. And I can echo your sentiment and say Jersey's going to be big time. And I already see it heading on the right track.
Yep,
A lot of good folks out there. Thank you all very much.
It took a while, but it's happening. So good stuff. Thank you again, Joe. Thanks, team. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.